I'm a qualified carpenter, but due to the recession, cannot find work. What are your plans to help qualified and unqualified workers find employment?
We've got to build Britain out of recession. I've been leading on the housing agenda. Last 15 months, we've invested in 110,000 new affordable homes, and that's created 88,000 jobs for construction workers and 3,000 apprenticeships. Now, we need much more of that, and Labour's committed to doing precisely that. Once again, building in areas like King's Standing, council houses. We're committed to building 50,000 council houses, with crucially there being conditions in the contracts for the companies who build them that what they've got to do is to train apprentices and take on local labour. And King's Standing may be a great area to live in, but I'll tell you this, you know from your own experience, out of a lot of people out of work, and we've got to get them into work.
Definitely.
And Jack, a lot of young people feel that there isn't nothing to do when they finish school. How can you combat the boredom of the youth, if you like, because this, as you know, triggers antisocial behaviour?
Yes, it does. My experience, by the way, including working with young people in King's Standing, is they're good people. What they need is somewhere to go and hope for the future. Because you go to school, you have a good education, you come out, you want to do well in life, and then sometimes, like you said, people struggle to find work. Now, two things are crucial, therefore. The first is that we do have youth services, places for young people to go, to be together, to learn together, to have a good time together. But the second thing is that we rebuild our manufacturing base here in Birmingham, great manufacturing city, but we rebuild that manufacturing base so that whether it's in manufacturing or whether it's in construction, we're creating hope for the future. Now, if you do that, my experience is that a great majority of kids, they jump at it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to ask you your plans on public transport. I feel it's too expensive and doesn't really link the suburbs of Birmingham that well. What are your plans on this?
One of the worst things the Tories did, and they did a lot of bad things under those 18 years of Mrs Thatcher, was they deregulated public transport. Basically, they turned it into a private business, and that means that there's no democratic control over bus services. Now, I campaigned for what's now a Labour Act of Parliament called the Local Transport Act. And what that does is to enable people like you to have a say through your elected representatives over how services are provided. And what we've got to do is to have services, for example, that go into every part of King's Standing at a price people can afford, but also things like night buses. I suspect from time to time you might go to Broad Street to have a good time, and fair play to you. It's about being able to get home at night. One final thing, it's also about a safe public transport. Safe for young people, but also safe, for example, for women travelling on public transport. For certain. You know, I'm a union man, and we represent the drivers, and we have, unfortunately, drivers who from time to time get assaulted. So there are issues that arise there in terms of bus wardens, CCTV, in hotspots, effective policing. But ultimately it comes back to this, is we need to move back to public transport being a public service. The Tories saw it as being private gain. We see it as a public service.
And finally, St Barnabas Church in Erdington has been under reconstruction for quite a while now. Is there any development on that to go ahead? Is there any plans for the church?
What people in Erdington tell me is they're proud of the church. It was at the heart of the constituency for many years. You know, people would go there to pray. Also, it was a great social centre, great community centre. So for me, one of the first things I want to do after the election is to get that church back into use. It's a great building with a great history, and I want it to be at the heart of a great constituency.
Is there a time limit you've set, or is there a date set for when it should be completed?
I've always said over the years I don't wave magic wands, but what I do is to move mountains. You know? And if local people say to me, as they have done, Jack, can you get this sorted? I'm going to get stuck into that and get it sorted. Certainly I hope that we'll be able to make major progress in the first year.
Thank you, Jack.
You take care of yourself.
Thanks, Jack.
Very good to meet you, both of you. Okay.
And thank you, that's all for the show, and we'd like to thank our two guests for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, goodbye.